Hello, residents of Barbie Land, and welcome to Circuit Court Entertainment, where we discuss how laws and history affect all forms of media. Today, we are talking about Bild Lilli, a forgotten fashion doll that influenced Barbie and so many others. It's a bit of a tragic tale, but let's get started. The Barbie movie's first trailer and opening of the movie proclaimed that all dolls before Barbie were baby dolls. To clarify, modern, think from the 1800s onward, dolls are often split into a few different types. Baby dolls are designed to look like babies. That much is true. There are also fashion dolls, which may or may not be played with, but are more designed around wearing certain clothes, are usually older characters, and are meant for non-maternal play. Paper dolls can be a variant of fashion dolls, though they do predate them, and they are designed like fashion dolls, but are made of paper instead of vinyl, ceramic, plastic, etc. Action figures are a type of doll, but not today's focus. Rag dolls were usually homemade and made of whatever cloth was available, and stuffed animals, which are not exactly dolls, but do fit a similar niche. So out of all these varieties of doll, the Barbie movie claims that Barbie was the first fashion doll, debuting in 1959. And they are completely wrong. There is a history of tailors using dolls to show off fashions, either to customers or to show current fashion to people who lived far away. Several royalty in the 1500s and 1600s, such as Mary, Queen of Scots, and Jane Seymour, were known to display ceramic dolls with a fashion design. And the Pittsburgh Courier itself has an earlier, modern fashion doll. Patty Jo dolls were based on the comics of Jackie Orms, and they debuted in 1947. They were also the first black fashion dolls to release with many fashion options available. And just not be a racist stereotype, I've seen previous mass-produced black dolls. It was bad. Barbie history itself acknowledges this, with the official history saying Barbie's creator, Ruth Handler, found a novelty doll and modified it to see if it would work before making the first Barbie. And we are here to talk about that doll, Bild Lilli. Bild Lilli is actually just named Lilli. The Bild refers to the German newspaper of that name, and the paper itself debuted in print in 1952 for people in West Germany and is still running today. Also in 1952, to fill up some space, Bild debuted a comic strip of a young, flirty girl about town, Lilli. She was confident, pretty, a gold digger, sassy, and single, at least until she married in 1961 and the strip ended. In 1958, she also had a movie, and most importantly for us, in 1955, she was a novelty doll line. Developed by a company named Greiner and Hauser, Lilli was intended as more of a gag gift, a novelty, mostly aimed at men, though could be given to women as a gift. Sure, she came with outfits, and you could order more, and they'd be hand-sewn by one person, but Lilli was popular. But how many dolls would get sold? Well, enough were sold that she got knockoffs, and expanded throughout Europe. Women and children were also highly interested in the doll with her portable size and multiple outfits, and Spain, the US, and China all had their own unlicensed versions. Though I will note the Bild newspaper is printed mostly in Germany, and even outside of Germany is printed for Germans in the area. So as popular as Lilli was, no one else was getting the context, which honestly speaks to the doll's appeal. If you can care for a doll without knowing where she comes from, she is well designed. Also, she was absolutely not a sex doll or based on a prostitute, and after some searching, I found the topless doll does not have prominent or detailed nipples, unlike what Toys That Made Us said. I know I said it was a gag gift aimed at men initially, but come on. Children were eventually a target audience. Lilli had a wide range of outfits, and as her scope widened, so did her outfits and their styles. Also, I genuinely have no clue if plastic could be molded to have detailed nipples on a doll that came in 12 inches and 7.5 inches size in the 1950s. And this is also where Barbie comes in. What everyone agrees on is Ruth Handler, the head of Mattel, was looking for a doll that would not be a baby doll and that children would play with. She found a Lilli doll in Holland, did some modifications, and then released it as Barbie. The problem is Barbie looked a lot like Lilli. Same blonde hair and stylized eyes, Sides similarly too. Outfits, well, default outfits are different, but both pulled from styles at the time. In fact, Lilli and Barbie standardized the fashion doll's size and proportions. To go back to my Captain Marvel episode, if the people behind Lilli had a good idea and a good bilingual lawyer of what was going on, they probably could have sued for copyright infringement. A kid coming in off the street would not be able to tell Lilli and Barbie apart at a glance. And, as I brought up before, Lilli was initially a gag gift based on a slightly risque, ditzy young woman who was commenting on the gender and economic politics of post-World War II Germany. So the arguments that she was a toned-down sex doll that is, at max, a foot high are false, and give less protection to Mattel. Actually, the advertisement suggested Lilli be given as a gift to women instead of flowers or chocolate. Lilli had 3 new patents, but what is important here are the patents related to her hips and legs. Unlike most dolls at the time, Lilli could sit down without spreading out her legs, as the advertisements say. This was accomplished by the use of rubber bands internally, a system that is still in use today to an extent. I know because I have several Monster High dolls with loose joints because their rubber bands have lost elasticity in the intervening years. So, in 1961, Greiner and Hauser, who, as stated, actually produced Lilli, made a deal with a U.S. company named Marx to produce Lilli in the United States. They also submitted a patent involving a doll hip joint and immediately sued Marvel for infringing on it. Mattel, on the other end, countersued. They argued that the patent was invalid, and if it was valid, Mattel didn't infringe on it. So, what is a patent? A patent is a legal document that lasts for 20 years. It covers a new and useful process that fulfills the 4 following conditions. 1. Able to be used, the invention must work and cannot be just a theory. 2. A clear description of how to make and use the invention. 3. New or novel, something not done before. And 4. Not obvious, as related to something already invented. Also, stuff like nature can't be patented. In addition, it is there to stop people from doing the same thing as you. So if I filed a patent for, let's say, a new type of bookshelf, if anyone else tried to make that bookshelf and I did not give them permission, then I could sue them under the patent. So with the Bild Lilli case, Mattel argued that the patent did not apply. They did do the same ball joint, but that wasn't exactly proof of anything. Someone else would have gotten there eventually. They additionally argued that the filing seemed to have been filed just to sue Mattel. In 1963, this was eventually settled out of court, and in 1964, several agreements were signed. First, the copyright was purchased from Greiner and Hauser in Deutschmarks. In 2024 money and adjusted to dollars, the amount was around $35,000. Greiner and Hauser in turn agreed not to make any dolls under the Bild, Lilli, or Barbie names. Also, for additional payments upon the Marx contract expiring, the marketing territories would be turned over for Mattel. For comparison, in the King Kong episode, I mentioned that King Kong's highly litigated rights were sold to Universal for over $1 billion adjusted for inflation. And Barbie's 2023 sales were $1.54 billion. So at $35,000, they were absolutely underpaid. That was kind of the end of it until 2003. Greiner and Hauser did not do well after they lost Lilli. They had to stop making her. Her strip had ended in 1961, so I'm not sure how popular she would have stayed. But look at Barbie and all she's done. Though, then again, unlike Lilli, Barbie didn't get her first non-doll item until a 1987 direct-to-VHS video because the toy sales are flagging, almost 30 years after Barbie's own debut. But in 2003, Greiner and Hauser tried to sue in Germany and the US, alleging that Mattel owed them money. Not only was Barbie just wildly successful, think about the 35-year IP law that was enforced in Friday the 13th that let creators take back properties if they were undervalued when sold. But they argued that Mattel had underplayed how successful Barbie was at the time. Barbie's first year, 1959, had sold 350,000 dolls, compared to Lilli's 130,000 lifetime sales. And while Greiner and Hauser alleged that their lack of success in lawsuits comes from a mixture of Mattel's much larger legal budget, name brand recognition, and the fact that the initial contracts had a large language barrier. Considering that in the decade after Mattel and Greiner and Hauser had settled, Mattel and Ruth Handler had confessed to lying for their own tax gain, it seems like Greiner and Hauser had grounds. Unfortunately, the case was dismissed. The contract was held as still valid, even with the new information. The unfortunate place we've arrived at here is that Lilli seems to have been lost to time. Even though she predated Barbie in dolls, movies, and print, she's always been in Barbie's shadow. She's now known as a woman of loose morals and a collector's piece, but not for being the basis of the entire modern fashion doll market. Even if she was going to fade away due to the fact her strip had ended years earlier, she deserves so much better. Thank you for listening to Circuit Court Entertainment. If you found this episode interesting, please tell others as this is a new podcast. Please subscribe and leave a review on all the major podcast services. You can find me on Twitter at CCEPod and Tumblr at Circuit Court Entertainment. This episode was written, edited, and recorded by me, Mina. The script was edited by CJ Peterson. Podcast art by Empress Cirque on Twitter. Thank you for your time, and I hope to hear from you soon.